Welcome to In Heels with Keni Silva, and today's guest is a speaker, author, a host, and a founder of Finding Joy. But more than that, she's actually a woman who believes, just like me, that's nothing that's impossible. Welcome, Peyton Hoffman.
Oh, Keni, thank you so much for having me on the show. I'm so excited to be here.
No, thank you, because the moment I read there's another woman just like me believing that everything is possible, I'm like, okay, this is it. Because I'm such a big believer. It's not just about the mindset.
Right.
It's because there is ways to make everything possible.
There's always a way. And I think for me, as you know, I grew up in Virginia. And so I grew up in an area where you were sort of expected to follow a certain trajectory and a certain path. And people, went and worked for the same company for many, many years. And so there was sort of this expectation of how life is going to be. And when I moved out to California about 8 years ago, that shook all kinds of things up. I was the first one to move out here. And it just, launched my own consulting business, the year after I moved out here with working with tech clients. That was the first time somebody in my family had launched their own business and it just broke a lot of things of what I even thought was possible. So let alone, my family, but what I thought was possible for me. And then Redefining Possible, the show, is something that honestly, I was not looking to be a podcast host or a show host. Was it something you were looking at?
I always just said I want to be Oprah Winfrey. So that was for me. I knew where I'm going, but first I had to write a book about other things.
Yes.
But what struck you about California the most?
California, well, I knew just in my heart I would go to California. I knew in 2015, it was something that I felt kind of in my journaling time. And I was like, I think I'm going to go to California. And I was working in tech at the time. So I kept trying to go to Northern California because that's the only thing that made sense in my brain was it's tech. You go to Mountain View, you go to Palo Alto. LA was not even on my radar. LA was entertainment. And
Hollywood.
It was Hollywood. It was like, I'm not in that industry. So why, or I wasn't at the time. So it's like, why would I even look at that? And every door that I tried to get through or tried to break down myself in Mountain View and Palo Alto ended up shutting. And so I was like, okay, this is not the right path, but I knew it was California. And I think it was August of 2018, I came out here. So about almost 3 years after I felt like I was supposed to move out here, I was out here for work and for about 10 days at a tech conference. And every single person I met was just so lovely and life-giving. And I'm a woman of deep faith. And so most of them were Christian. And it just was one of these things where I had incredible peace for 10 days about California. And I came back home and I owned a house in Virginia. I put it up for rent, moved everything into a storage unit. And 2 months later, rented out a long-term Airbnb because I didn't know the area.
Mm-hmm.
And 2 months later, packed up all my stuff and moved out to California. And I sold my car the day before I moved out here because I thought, you don't need a car in LA. Like I just thought, I know. Everyone is like, what were you thinking? But I imagined it like New York City, where it's just very walkable. And anytime I'd been out here for work previously, it had been in more of the downtown LA conference area. And so that's just how I pictured the whole area to be. And it's very much not like that. So I showed up and my first Airbnb was in Beverly Hills, like up in the hill with no car. And I immediately was like, okay, I need to figure this out. This is probably not the way to do it. And I told myself I'd buy a car the second my monthly Ubers added up to a car payment. And that took almost a year, honestly, because I was still traveling so much for work. And you understand when you're on the road all the time, it's just a different lifestyle. It was so frustrating for the couple of years up until I realized where I was supposed to go and that I was supposed to be there. And the second I had that sureness, everything moved very quickly and everything was very peaceful. And to talk about it, it sounds crazy. Like I'm not the kind of person that just sells my car and packs up everything and goes across the country with 5 suitcases and 3 bags of shoes. But that's what I did. And so It's just wonderful. I mean, there's not a second of a day in 8 years that I have questioned whether or not I was in the right place.
So you just found your place.
I found, it was where I was meant to be. It was where I was, and I wasn't meant to be here any earlier. I moved out here in my 30s and I love that. I wasn't 22 looking for the dream, because I do see a lot of younger folks that move out to LA and then no one teaches them about the business of entertainment. They just have the dreams of entertainment, and then their dreams get crushed or they realize how hard it is. And so I moved out here old enough that I didn't have any of that. And I also wasn't trying to be in entertainment. I was just out here being like, this is where I'm supposed to be right now. And it's just really incredible. It's really incredible just how I immediately got connected in with community, which I hear from other people is really hard in LA. And so
but it was through work or just personal friendships?
Just personal friendships. I had one cousin that already lived out here, like a third cousin, and she's amazing. So obviously got connected in with her. And then I had a couple of friends from actually high school that had moved out here years ago, gotten married. And so really through them and then through church, I just got plugged into community like within 5 days of being here. And that's really remarkable. And I'm so grateful. I'm also someone who I will go out and chat with people and, seek
so you
them
can
out.
easily make friends. You don't really need a community. You're going to create one around you.
It's not impossible. But part of my work at the time, part of my job was, business development. So I was constantly on the road. I was meeting with the corporate executives of different companies, and I was making friends. That's just what I'd been doing. And so I came out here with I wasn't expecting anyone to come to me. Let's put it that way. So I was like, oh, okay, well, I need to go out and make sure I get to know these people. And I find my tribe while I'm here. And some of it did come to me, but it also was me going out there and not being afraid to connect with people too.
And what about the job? You still had the same job, or you kind of reinvented yourself?
Oh my goodness. Well, LA has reinvented me a couple of times, but coming out here, I had in January of that year taken a new job, and it was part of the role. I was a VP for a company, and part of the role was that I got to work remote. So it was the first
That was
role.
a good job.
It was wonderful.
That's why it allowed you to go to the place and experience.
It did. And it was the first time because I knew I'd wanted to.
But wait, do you think you took that job on purpose? So it will allow you to go where you want to be?
No, actually they approached me. So
it was a destiny, because I'm such a big believer. Yeah. I'm a believer that you have a path. Sometimes you can get off the path, but this is where you feel the struggle. This is where the road feels so heavy and long. Yep. And when you're on your path, things will just fall in place.
Things flow. It's really and truly for me, it was when I surrendered. So it was the fall.
Oh my God, that's my favorite. I was like, I'm surrender. Show me the way. I'm tired too.
It's true. And that's when, that's when God can move, honestly. I had just said, like, I'm at the end of my rope on this. I have tried to get to California. I feel like I'm supposed to be in California. And I just had been like, Lord, if I'm supposed to be there, you have to make a way. This is crazy. This is not working. And maybe a month after that, I was at a conference and I ran into this CEO that I knew peripherally in the tech industry. Super nice guy. And he said to me, oh, how are things going? How's work? And I was like, I think, because it was good. I didn't have anything bad to say. I just was like, I think I've kind of maxed out what I can do. And that was the truth. I'd been at a company for almost 14 years and had worked my way up. And I had hit the ceiling at that point of where I could be. And, I just said, hey, if you think of anything or hear of anything, just let me know. Would love to, different people than I do. And he's like, oh, absolutely. And that was it. It was like a 2-minute conversation. And then unbeknownst to me, he went back to Chicago, where his company's from, gave a call to his COO and said, find a way to hire her.
Wow.
And so the COO calls me and she's like, we really want to hire you. And I'm like, I wasn't even thinking about his company. I was like, wait, what's happening right now? And she goes, and so basically over a course of a couple of weeks, they put together for me 2 different job descriptions. They were both VP roles, same comp, just different jobs. And they basically put them in front of me and I picked my job.
Wow, that was amazing.
It was amazing. It was amazing.
But it's also amazing because you listened,
I did.
The universe, the God, whatever people believe in. A lot of times we ask for guidance.
Yeah.
But then we don't listen.
True.
We're like, no, this is not the way I want to do it. And this is where a lot of people, I think, don't realize that it's not just asking for guidance, it's following it.
It is. And for me, I had to surrender because I was striving to make it happen.
Yes.
You know, I gotten that little glimpse of guidance, and then I was trying to be the one to make it occur.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I just stepped back and was like, no, my hands are off of this. I'm not going to worry about this. You know, God's going to have to figure this out. This is not on me. I have done everything I could do, tried every door, and it was just weird things would happen. Like I would do 14 interviews with a company. They'd fly me across the country to their facility, really, really well-known, like global tech company. And then they go to offer me the job and the budget gets pulled. Like there were just weird things that happened. And after that happened a couple of times, I was like, I don't think I'm supposed to go to Northern California. I think this might not be the right place.
A lot of times I feel like we put in our brain certain things have to happen, or the place, or the goal, and it's wrong.
Yeah.
It wasn't the idea of moving was wrong. It was where it was going.
Yeah.
And I suffer from the same because once I'm determined it has to be this way, unless I'm like bleeding from pain, like, okay, I got the memo. That was wrong.
That
like,
was not it.
That was not it. I need to change it. I'm very stubborn in that way. It's just sometimes I'm like, I want to prove to myself I can do it. It's like, why is that? And that's where with life and experience and maturity, I realized like, well, I don't have to always swim against the current.
No. And you shouldn't. And it's, for me, California was right. I knew California.
Yes.
I made an assumption on the area of California. So
because what he was doing, it just made sense.
It just made sense in my brain of tech is tech, and that's where I go. And I didn't know there was a lot of tech in LA. I didn't know that this was it just wasn't a thought. But no, once I moved out here, it was really amazing. I got connected in with community. It just really confirmed for me, okay, this was the right place. And I've just had peace about it. And it's been so beautiful. And, you know, work careers have changed during COVID. I actually stepped back and launched my own consulting business with tech clients. So I was suddenly on the other side of it, no longer an employee, but my own, you know, running my own company. And I've been doing that for, I guess, almost 6 years now.
Oh, wow. Congratulations.
It's amazing. So
how do you decided to do that? Because you were tired of traveling?
No, well, I was. That is true. That you are not wrong. but actually it was, I had taken a brand new job in January of 2020 with a company. I didn't really know that well, but they basically looked at what I was doing at the company that had moved me out to California. And they were like, okay, we want you to go and do this at our company. And I was like, okay, same, and just threw a bunch of extra money at me. And I initially was like, no, it looks like there's a lot of travel in this, and kind of turned down the role. They retooled it, removed everything that looked like, you know, was a problem to me, and brought it back. And on big decisions, like I pray about things. And I didn't pray the second time around. And then about 2 weeks in, I immediately was like, this is a no. Oh my gosh, I was not supposed to take this job. Like I knew immediately. And, you know, it's the second week of January. I had just started this new job, and I was like, Peyton, you cannot, I overthought it. I was like, you cannot make that decision, you know, this early, 2 weeks into a company, 2 weeks into a job. And because it was the same job, it wasn't the work. And then beginning of March, I was like, you have to give it more time. Beginning of March, COVID hit. So everything shut down. And I was like, well, now is not the time to leave a company. This is not what we do right now.
Yes.
Now we
have to stick
it out. So like now it became like, okay,
now we learning.
Now it was like power through, you know, and it was honestly, talk about, you know, when you are in a place that's not like the grace is not on it. It just, oh my gosh, it was exhausting. It was just, I was working every day, night, weekend. The company exploded in a good way in COVID, but really was almost unprepared for the level of growth that they had. Like they didn't have a CFO in place yet. It was just more startup. It was so young. And so everybody was just scrambling. And then in, I guess, April, I started journaling, and I just felt in my soul like I'm not going to be there much longer.
I think we all know when it's time to leave.
Yeah.
Work, relationship. I always tell myself, I'm not ready yet.
Yeah. And it was,
and then you just you know it's going to happen. You just gradually progress to that decision that needs to be made.
Yeah.
Like, okay, this is the time.
Well, and I didn't want to leave during COVID. I mean, that was not the time to leave.
Nobody knew what's going to happen.
Yeah,
it was so much uncertainty.
I was like, we just deal with this next year. Like, this is not the time to be doing this, making changes. But I just kept feeling, you know, April, May, June, July, like you're not going to be there much longer. And then in August, the company restructured and my division, like I ended up losing my role or lost my job. And they were like, you can stay if you want to do this other role, but we're going to no longer have this.
So you manifested because you're going to make the decision. Yeah. You made them make a decision for you.
Well, because I was just like, I'm loyal. I'm going to just stick it out. Yeah. And it was like loyal, like to a fault almost, because I knew it wasn't healthy for me, but I also was just like, I think I was just scared, you know, in terms of nobody's hiring. Everything is shut down. Now is not the time to go find a job. But that's when
the biggest growth happens. If you step into something you are scared of and you feel that fear, this is the biggest growth that happens.
And when it happened, I had, Keni, I can't even explain it. I had so much peace about it. Like I'm on, you know, Zoom with their team because nobody's in the office, you know, they're not telling you. And so they're explaining to me on Zoom and I'm like consoling them. I'm like, it's fine. Like they're like people are crying on Zoom. I'm like, this is fine. It's really okay. Like, cause I had been prepared since April. So
it's my happy day.
I
was like, I've been waiting you since January.
Like, we're good. Like this is the professional decision. It is a business decision. It's fine. I'm not, you know, it's okay. Like you've done everything we asked you to do. I was like, I know that, you know, so you don't have to convince me. I know I did my job. And it just was such a gift because even though I only worked there for about 8 months, I ended up leaving there, and this was not something that was in my contract at all. I ended up leaving there with every commission, every bonus, as if I'd been there for an entire year. I mean, they didn't owe me anything. They owed me like 3 weeks of salary. I mean, that's it. And they took care of me for health insurance. They went above and beyond anything. So, I mean, I left there and I had this runway of like, oh, I have time to figure this out. And I just assumed I'd go work for another company because that's all I'd done my whole life. And about 2 weeks after this happened, I got a call from the former CEO of Chrysler Automobiles, and who was a friend of mine through the tech industry. And he called me up and he was like, hey, what are you doing? And I was like, well, I just left this company and I'm living in the Valley now in LA, and just, I guess I'm going to go work for someone else, but kind of taking a minute to figure out what that's going to look like. And he's like, well, you know, I have some companies that I'm advising. He goes, and I was thinking about you this morning, and, you know, they need help with marketing. Would you be interested in just like freelancing with them? And I was like, well, I have nothing better to do. Like literally I was like, sure. What else am I going to do? And met both the companies, adored them, and just thought it would be something for a few months. And that's how my business started. It started with, this gentleman literally giving me the first 2 companies that I ever worked with. Again, just such a crazy gift, something I never thought I'd be doing. And then every time, you know, I kind of just held it very open-handed because I was like, okay, are we setting this down? Are we doing something else now? I was always ready to kind of give it back. And it's been beautiful. And I've learned so much, I think, about me during this whole time frame. But simultaneously with it, last year was when I started considering doing the show, doing Redefining Possible. And I did not want to do a show. I mean, as I said, like that was not on my radar. So
how did you come to that idea? It's not like somebody wakes up like, you know what, I want to do a show. I'm tired of consulting.
No, exactly. And it wasn't even like an either or. It was the summer before, so summer of 2024. Mm-hmm. I had been, again, just journaling. And I had this thought of, I think I'm supposed to do a podcast. And I wrote it down. And it was one of those things that I, even to see my face, I'm like, I wrote it down. And I said out loud, like, oh, that's silly. The world does not need another podcast. Like, it just sounded like the most ridiculous idea. 3 months after that, I was in a leadership training. And there was an older pastor gentleman that I'd never met that was leading the training. And he came up and he prayed over me afterwards. And I was like, oh, thank you so much. And all of a sudden he goes, I want to say the world doesn't need another podcast, but it needs yours. It was verbatim what I had said out loud. I had told no one. And 3 months earlier, had never met this gentleman. He did not know me. And I just looked at him and I was like, oh, and I was like, and so at that point it was like, okay, yes, I'm going to do this show, but I didn't know what it was going to be on. And I was like, I'm not going to talk just for the sake of talking. It's got to have a purpose. There needs to be something bigger than me that this is a part of. And really that took me up until May of this past year, or 2025, last year, to figure out what it was supposed to be about. And I had gone to Laguna Beach, which I love, just a little getaway for a couple of days and just like a staycation quiet time for myself. And just to pray and journal and lean into, okay, what am I doing next? Really just brainstorm and dream, honestly. And in my journaling, the last day I was there, I just really felt, honestly, from the Lord, I just started writing in my journal, I'm redefining what's possible in your life. I'm redefining what's possible in your life. Like over and over. I looked at that and I was like, that's the show. Like it's Redefining Possible. Because it's sitting down with folks and taking these impossible moments in their lives, things where just times or circumstances where it was like, I don't know how I'm going to get through this, or I don't know how I'm going to get healed, or I don't know how I'm going to have this child when I'm in my mid 40s or later. It's, things that just sound like they're impossible. And then what happens when the impossible becomes reality? And that's really what I was seeing evolve in my life. And I was like, no, I want to steward these stories. Like I really want to hold space for that with people and sit with them and say, yeah, your story matters. And how can we encourage other people to believe more and to hope for more than what they've seen in their lives? So it's really, really, really special. It took time for all of that to kind of, even just for me to have, again, clarity and guidance on what it was going to be. And then I'd known Rachel and Rick from Recordless, whom we love, for a couple of years. And I was sitting next to them a couple of weeks after I wrote down Redefining Possible would be the topic and that would be the title. And I hadn't told anyone. And I was sitting next to them at church, actually. And I said, I think I'm supposed to do a show. I think I'm supposed to do a podcast. And they both leaned forward in complete unison, looked at me, and they're like, we're in. And I was like, I don't even know what that means. Like, this is so outside my wheelhouse. I was like, you want to be on it? Like, what does that mean? And they're like, we launch shows. We do this. And I was like, I did not know you. How did I not know you did this? Like, I had
So you
no
didn't
idea.
know that's what they were doing?
No
Wow.
idea.
So you just were together at church?
Yes, we were just sitting. I was sitting with them and I was thinking, but the thoughts were coming out loud out of my mouth. And so I was
So you were talking to God and then some strangers replied, hey, we're going to help you out.
Dear friends, not strangers, but yes. I was just out processing it out loud. And they both looked at me and I was like, wait, what? You do what? And it just, they're like, this is what we do. And they didn't even know what the topic was. And I was like, wait, you guys don't even know what it's about. They're like, it doesn't matter. It's you. Like, we believe in you. We're behind this. We're behind you. And it was so beautiful just because I was sitting there thinking, how do people do this? Like, do I put a microphone in my kitchen? Like, what do you just film on your iPhone? Like, I literally, Keni, had no idea. I was like, how do people do this as a job? Like, how is this a thing? And all the things that I had questions about were the things that they did. They knew about lighting. They knew about studios. They knew about, and they already had a space. I mean, every piece that I had a question and just was like, how am I going to do this? They were the answer. And they were sitting right next to me, which is pretty wild. It's been such a dream ever since to be able to just sit in with people and hold their stories, because everyone has a story.
Yes.
Everyone has a story. And everyone has a moment where it just looked like, how am I going to get through this? And just to be able to encourage other people that, hey, you know what? Everyone has hard, impossible things. And it's really a lot of stories of overcomers. I mean, that's really what it is it's empowering and encouraging. And it's, hey, if you can get through this, and if it can happen for you, it can happen for someone else. And that's really what I want the listeners and the audience to take from it.
I always say that every person has a story because we always go through something. And I think a lot of people don't even realize that they're going through something because they're always in a survival mode.
Yes.
And only once it's over, you're like, whoa, I just...
Like, I got through that. I made it.
Exactly. That was weird. Now I'm like, a lot of times it's like, when is it going to end that survival mode? I just want to be paused. But then you kind of, with life, you get used to it. So you constantly living in that moment of, that's fine, everything is falling apart, I'm going through storms, but then you realize like, no, that's not normal.
Just to see that there's purpose in it, or there's purpose that can come from it. Let's put it that way. There's nothing is wasted. I just believe like nothing will be wasted. I had a woman that I interviewed the other day, and she lost her son, and that's just the most awful, gut-wrenching thing you can experience just as a woman, as a parent. And she has taken that and she's turned it into this incredible, honestly, just passion to help other parents and help other children that are struggling, whether it's mental health issues or whatever. She's made it a focus now of her life, and it's changed her entire life. So it's really,
I think this is one of the hardest ones because when you overcome something, but when it relates to children, and I have two, and I think that's the most unbearable thought. That's, it's like, oh my God, why did it happen? Like, why the God didn't take me, or the universe, whoever you believe. And at the same time, I also feel like a child losing a parent is much harder.
It's either way. I mean, it's gut-wrenching.
Yes. And to overcome that and see a purpose, that's a very honorable thing to do. And a lot of times, I think you would agree with me, listening to those stories is like, wow, like my life will never be the same after hearing. And you start feeling not just compassion, you look at life differently.
Yes. Yeah.
You see things that never even bothered you. Now you look at it and you feel compassionate. You feel like, for me, especially, and we have teenagers who walk sometimes and, like they tell stories about this kid or that. I'm like, you know what? Like, I always feel, especially people who maybe have anger, attitude, or whatever it is, they have so much pain.
They do.
And the moment you start looking at people from that angle, you change how it affects you. Because to me, it's all about, don't take anything personal, whatever the outside world is doing. And especially for my children, I teach them that, because they're very sensitive. A lot of times they're like, well, why is it? I'm like, listen, don't take anything personal. And if somebody is doing something to you, it's because they have so much pain inside. And when you start looking at that with that perspective, somehow their words or actions don't affect you anymore.
And it's so true. And it's hard to have that perspective as a teenager, for sure. I mean, it's teenage years, especially for girls. It's so hard. It's just so hard.
It's hard. And I tell them, hey, it doesn't get better with girls. It doesn't get better. You're just going to have to used to and learn a system, how to, survive with them. But, now having a show, how does it make you feel?
Oh, it's amazing. I feel, it inspires me. First of all, every single, story that I get to hear, I just feel so lucky that I get to hold these people's stories, and because they're sacred. Every single story that is shared, it's something that is deeply sacred to that person. And it's something that I know is going to impact many, many other people. And so it really feels like a gift, honestly, every day. And it doesn't feel like work. I come in and I'm like, this is so much fun. I get to sit with people and share their stories, and oh my gosh, how lucky am I to get to do this? And it's so wonderful. And it's something I never would have pictured for myself. I did not have this on a vision board. It was not on the bingo card. Like, it was nowhere. So, but it's so wonderful. And I can't wait to see where it goes. I mean, it's only been a year of, actual filming for me. So it's just, all it's going to do is grow and increase and get better. And so I just
But do you think it's your final destination, or you expect that the God will send you something else?
I think there will be more media in my future. I've worked with media, but I've always worked on the behind the scenes, doing crisis communication training for executives, for example, or speaker training for executives. I was not the person who was the face of things. And so stepping more into, just even in this context, just sitting and not being the person that's training the guest, but actually being the guest on the show is.
So your job before was training speakers.
It was training.
Okay, so now we're going to ask a professional question. So what was the first thing you would tell your every client how to present themselves better?
Oh, I would just say really be authentic and be yourself. A lot of people, I would say men especially, get really nervous.
Okay.
Really nervous.
My boyfriend gets so nervous to the point he will get on stage and he will lose his voice.
And I bet you he's done this for years.
Yes. And every time he's terrified.
This is not.
And why? Okay. Why is that?
It's, I think it is, men in general, they put a lot of pressure on themselves. There is that, tends to be, I don't want to generalize, but there can be a performance mindset that men have that women have less of. It's not that we don't have it at all, but we have a little bit less of that. And so, especially when you have a stage, which is an elevated presence, that is, and you're suddenly looking out at everyone, you're looking at hundreds of people. That's a reason to get nervous. But at the same time, just remembering, I remind people all the time, I'm like, you have value. Like what you have to say matters. And even if it's not perfect, even if it's not, what the teleprompter has or what you've got on your cards, it doesn't matter. It's okay. The audience doesn't know any different. They don't know.
Yeah.
So just roll with it, keep going, and it's going to be fine. And it's going to probably end up being whatever it was they needed to hear. We can, over project and over prepare for things. And you don't have to. You just don't. It's like you don't have to be the loudest person in the room to be the most impactful. You don't. You can be on a stage sitting in a fireside chat type of thing like this and have nugget after nugget after nugget of wisdom and gold that people need. So I think I look at that and I'm like, number one, just don't forget what you have to say has value. Be authentic. They're there for you. They're not there for you to pretend to be somebody else or to try to be the guy or the woman that's got it all together. Like none of us have it all together. Just like, let's release that. We do not. I do not have it all together.
But that's what makes us human.
It makes it wonderful.
It makes it wonderful. One time my girlfriend, she called me and she's in the tech world. She's about to go give speech. And I'm like, she's like calling me. She's like, Keni, I'm terrified. I'm like, you're the girl who went through 6-year divorce and you were terrified of what a bunch of men sitting there. She's like, okay, I forgot. Thank you. Bye. Yeah. And I'm like, just a reminder who you really are, what you went through. And this terrifies you. Come on. Yeah. And she's like, okay, I got it.
And I get it for folks who, if that's not what they're doing all the time, if they're not typically on a stage. Your boyfriend, I was like, oh, I'm sure. Because that just sounded so cookie cutter for what I hear. But
he does the fire conversations good, but never like if he has to give an award in a speech, that's it.
A speech is different. A speech is different.
It gets him very, he gets nervous to the point he loses his voice. And I'm like, listen, the good thing, you look good, so everybody's there to look at you, not what you're going to say. You're not famous for what are you saying, you're famous for your looks. With me, it's different. Everybody pays attention to what I say, so I can really do you and lose my voice.
Yeah. Well, and it's with the speech, it's all on you too, whether it's a man or a woman.
I don't even prepare speeches. He writes it out. I never prepare speeches, even when I have to go and really speak. I just have my points in my head. The moment I have to memorize something, I become so nervous.
Yes, that's it.
It's so crazy. But if I have just, bullet points, okay, I have to talk about this, I'm perfect.
Yeah, because you want to get it. That's, I think, what really messes up a lot of people is when you hit on something so great is that when you're trying to memorize it and you're trying to get it word for word, that perfectionism kicks in. And then if you make one mistake, it just throws you all off. And so that's actually the way you're doing it is actually what I would teach people in speaker training would be, hey, if you're doing a filmed thing and it's just you, okay, here's your points. Here, mention this person, mention this, what we're doing with the company, whatever it is, here's your topics, bullet points. But it was not a word for word script because the script meant we would do take after take after take after take, trying to get it exactly right. And it's just, it's so stressful for everyone. And it doesn't sound as natural too. So when you're in here and we're just hitting on specific points, that's much more natural for everybody. And it's easier. And then there's less stress on the person too.
I mean, I cannot. I'm like, even intro, I'm like, oh my God, like why? And it also, I feel like when I'm trying to memorize, I'm so concentrated exactly on every word that I lose the whole meaning. What am I even talking? Even if I will stop and mess up, like obviously when you talk and you mess up, you can continue.
Yes.
But when you mess up something you're trying to memorize, then you're trying to remember what's next.
It's hard. It's hard for everyone. And I think, part of what I love too about doing this type of, sit down and doing Redefining Possible as well is that there is no set script for the conversation.
Exactly.
It goes wherever it's meant to go. There are things we want to hit on, but at the same time, like I'll have an end. I'll have an end goal of like, this is what I want people to get out of it. But how we get there is fluid. I mean, how we get there is okay. We can leave that open. And I think that just gives room for the guest. It gives room for, if you're speaking in front of people, it gives room for there to be, changes within whatever's already happened that day. If you're at a conference, well, you may change what you're saying based on what other people have said earlier. So it's, you just leave room for that, leave room for change. I love it. I mean, I have men and women on my show, and it's so wonderful because the women are, I love encouraging men and women. And it's just, as a woman, I love seeing other women feel encouraged and empowered and just uplifted and thinking like, oh, okay, if this person can do this, I can do it too. Or, they can go through this really difficult situation and come out of it actually flourishing on the other side. Maybe that can happen for me too. And then for men, the men will just be real. They'll be like, this was awful, and I had a professional boxer on my show, and he had gotten in a car accident and no longer could box. And that had been his identity. And so we do a lot of identity conversations on Redefining Possible because it is the shifting of circumstances can shift or make you at least reset your identity of who you are in the best way. So it's like those difficult, really tough situations make you think, like for him, he was like, who am I if I'm not a boxer? And it took him a couple of years, and then he was able to come back into boxing as a ref and as somebody who was, on the other side of things and did that tremendously. I mean, was a coach, was a ref, did really rearranged his identity. So it was still boxing, but it wasn't this one piece. And I think that's what I love about these stories is I can listen to men and women share, oh my gosh, this changed what I thought of myself. And that's my story. I mean, it's things in my life have come up that have happened, whether it's been career or personal, that have really transformed how I think of me and, in the best way, and really have helped break off, I think, some limiting mindsets that I had over myself and my life. So yeah, I mean, I created the show because I needed it. So it's great.
I think we all, unless you really have to get a 9-to-5 job where you don't see yourself. But I think that's a problem of a lot of people because they don't really know who they truly are.
Yeah.
And of course, when you're young and you finish college, there's a lot of parents talking into your ear who you have to be.
Yes, there is that.
So in the beginning, the first parts, of your life, you're just trying to satisfy everybody's opinion about how your life should look.
Yes.
Then around your 30s, you're already in the mix. You're either like with a family, with kids, or you're in that job that you don't feel good living.
There's that, yeah.
And I think after 40s, this is when your true rebirth happens. When you're like, you know what? I'm a grown-up person.
I love it.
I can stand up to everything and I can do whatever I want. And this is where you start searching for that passion, for the true path you were supposed to be on before everybody interfered. Yeah. And this is your real journey. At least for me, it started. And this is where you're like, I can do things just to fulfill myself. Yeah. And that's the biggest gift, I think, for all of us to find that what really fulfills you.
Yeah. Well, and it's true. And especially, someone who came up kind of climbing the corporate ladder to step back and go into something that's a lot more creative. And I've been an author. I've written some books. That's always been a creative outlet for me. But something like this is fairly new, but also to be like, oh, wait, I can do this. And also it's wonderful. And I'm helping so many other people, and that's fulfilling for me. And it's encouraging and inspiring. And again, it just feels like a gift to get to do it every day. It really is wonderful.
Who do you think is more resilient, man or woman, after interviewing both?
Oh.
Or easier to adapt?
That, I will say both men and women are equally resilient in different ways. The men that I've talked to they've gone through things, well, everyone's gone through things, but they've gone through things where, alcoholism, lost the business, lost the home, was able to get sober, built an entire new life around sobriety, like rock bottom, build back up. Men are resilient in that way of okay, I'm going to build myself back up. I'm going to build this new life. Women are, I would say, more emotionally resilient. Women can go through things that are just grief and devastation and somehow survive it and come out on the other side and then say, I'm going to make something wonderful out of this thing that was horrible. And I don't know if it's not that men can't or don't. I haven't talked to as many men who do it in that way. It's just a different type of resilience.
Well, men and women, I think, are different. They don't have the emotional capacity that women have, I think, because in my opinion, I'm raising a boy and a girl. So I always see my son is very black and white in terms of, if he says he loves you, he loves you. If he says this with a girl, she can say one thing, it will mean 100 different because we have a rainbow of emotions.
That's true.
Man only has black and white. So they're different,
It's so interesting because I think what I see in this is, I do see a lot of expansion of identity. We're even with men where they'll say, talking about emotional capacity, I've had a man's coach sit down with me and on Redefining Possible. And he just said, men need this training. Like they need the emotional training.
I train my son every day that it's okay to have emotions. It's okay to express them. Because I think men, since they were born, everybody said, well, you're men don't cry.
Toughen up. Deal with it.
And they hold it inside them, which that's why I think
not
a
healthy,
lot of it, not healthy.
Let's just say
because
that.
this is where the anger, this is where, besides all the drinking and other things, but men just don't know how to show in emotions.
And I love the change now. I mean, I think I can think back to my parents' generation. Definitely that was a generation that was raised a certain way. And it was like, be tough, toughen up, hold it in. And then I think with our generation, you're getting some of that. They're like, oh, wait, I wish I'd learned this when I was 15, but I'm learning it now.
I mean, truthfully,
40.
I was raised very strict. It was never emotions. And I'm happy it was that way.
Yeah.
Because right now I feel like I spend so much time analyzing my emotions, which I don't even know if it's a good thing or bad thing, but it definitely accumulates a lot of time and energy. Yes. And I was like, wow, it's so much easier. Of course, we didn't have TikTok or Instagram that every other person talks to you. Well, how do you feel today? Right. Well, it's like, come on. There was no space for that.
Yeah.
It was just a pure like, hey, something happened, you move on or you solve the problem. Yes. It was not so much analyzing that part. I think growing up, looking at my kids, I had a happier childhood than them because I was where it was still, you can create and imagine things in your head.
Right.
You didn't have all these other things in front of you, killing your dreams before you can even start dreaming.
Well, and that's what I was going to say. I mean, it's just every generation is so different. I look at, kids that are in their teens or 20s even, and they grew up with social media.
Yes,
which is
hard for them.
So unfortunate, honestly, because, I remember a childhood before that.
Yes.
I remember a childhood before
Me too.
all of this.
That's why we journal.
Yeah.
Because we have the patience. We still have the part of journaling besides it's so healing. This is where your imagination, you can write things. You can write your own future. Yeah. You can write it as a script to a movie. And then you're like, oh my God, that's exactly what happened.
And then I look at my nieces and nephews who are, 6 and 3, and they're growing up in a world that has AI. And I don't even know what, that's going to mean for them. But what I do love is that there's, parenting now is giving, we didn't have the language. And what I love is that parenting now is giving kids the language around emotions. Yes. Like I'm frustrated or I'm disappointed or I'm, they're learning as kids, just the language. I think that's so important. And then, but yes, I mean, the instant gratification of social media, YouTube, all of the things that it's good as a tool in many ways. It also can be really harmful. And that, it can put people out there as if they were an overnight success, and nobody's an overnight success. Like, that does not exist. It's not a thing. The overnight success probably worked 10 years to get to where he or she is. And so there's that, there's the instant gratification. And so that actually, just speaking about men and women, that changes how we interact with each other, because, now there's just these things where everything's instant. And, if you want something, you get it immediately. And, you Amazon it and you have it in 2 days. And it actually changes human behavior and how we are with each other. And so I'm seeing a lot of reset of identity dealing with that as well, where as adults, people are kind of saying, men and women are kind of going, well, wait a minute, like this thing was, social media was making me compare myself to someone else. And how did I let it get that far? Like, how did I let it become this thing? And so it's really, there's good and there's bad, and I think it's a tool, but
the thing is, we cannot stop it. So I always say we have to adapt.
Yes. And boundaries. I think boundaries are super
exactly.
important.
Like I see my daughter now, she's like, Mom, a lot of times I don't even turn on Instagram because it overwhelms me.
Yeah.
It overwhelms me too.
Boundaries.
Yes. But I'm happy that she came to that conclusion without me forcing it on her. Because I'm such a big believer that the kids should learn on their own mistakes.
Yeah.
Because no matter how many times I'm going to tell them, I mean, of course they listen, but do they really follow through? No. But unless they realize how much it affects them, their life, then they will definitely do something.
Oh, completely. And I love that she came to that realization, just like you were saying, because that's so self-aware for her to say, like, actually, this is not good for me right now. And that can apply to anything. I mean, a whole slew of things. But I love that that's such a great thing for that generation to have. And there's a lot of girls and guys her age that are doing that, where they're pushing back on things that have been fake. Yeah. And there is such a desire for authenticity.
But I think it comes from the family where they see their parents is into something.
Yes.
Because you can't tell the kids to be kind if you're not doing it.
Oh, completely.
You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, you can't tell them, like, dream if you're not teaching them how to or showing them. Like, she told us, like, Mom, I love that you're chasing your dreams. And she sees that versus she's seeing me, whatever, doing something different. Yeah. So she knows that this is how it's supposed to be.
Oh, it's wonderful. And you're right. You have to model it. Kids have to see it modeled. They have to see it. And I love even getting to model it, like with Redefining Possible, writing books. I mean, I've got a niece that just turned 11 and she's like, I want to be an author. I want to write a book.
Beautiful.
And it's so sweet. And it's just something that whether or not she does, who knows? But I love that she even is inspired to want to do that because her aunt did it. And, she can even put that on a dream board of, one day I want to write a book and and it's just so wonderful. I love that, and that's what I'm getting from my guests that I talk to is like, oh yeah, I can dream for this and I can do it. And it's wonderful. It's wonderful for all of us. It's so healthy. It's so good. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. And on this note about dreaming that everything is possible, unfortunately, we have to say goodbye. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome. Thank you so much for having me on. This has been amazing, Keni. Thank you.
Thank you.